Welcome to In the Gym. I'm your host, Michael Petrella. Today on the show we have Brian Dawson. Brian Dawson has competed in natural bodybuilding and is currently the regional sales manager for Rogers Athletics, who makes Pendulum equipment. Brian, thank you for being on the show.
Excited to be here.
We like to start off with a very simple question with a lot of people that come on. How did you get into weightlifting? What was your start of it?
So not too dissimilar from most of the other guys, I'm sure, but playing sports growing up. My whole life, if I wasn't playing basketball, I was playing football. If it wasn't football, it was baseball. So it was just kind of a natural thing. If you're playing sports at a high level, you're probably going to get involved in weightlifting at some point in your life. That's really where it started. After high school, sports was done. That's when I really got into weightlifting a lot more. A couple of buddies of mine that I lived with in college, that was our 4 o'clock routine. We get home from work every day and it's gym time.
Gym time. Perfect. So obviously from athletics, you transitioned into, you actually did a bodybuilding show. And for those who aren't aware, a lot of people, they lift weights and they want to look better and feel better. But the actual sport of bodybuilding means you're getting in tremendous shape. You're actually going on stage and competing against other individuals. What was your inspiration to actually get into a competitive bodybuilding mode?
I would say that after athletics were done, that competitive spirit was still there. So I was looking for something to continue to compete in, and spending as much time in the gym and as much time on my diet and supplementation and whatnot as I figured, why not do it? Why not be competitive in this realm, see how I do? It's one thing to go to the gym and work out and maintain. It's a whole nother world to try to get down to 3-4% body fat and then step on stage in a skimpy little outfit in front of a whole bunch of people you don't know. Right.
Now, I like to tell people that for the sport of bodybuilding, it really is a 24/7 sport. There isn't any downtime because there's always something that you have to be doing to try to make that incremental progress. What was that like for you, especially going from team-based sports to bodybuilding is largely an individual sport? You have people that help you, but it's still mostly on yourself.
Sure, yeah, that was maybe, besides the diet, the biggest thing.
And I want to talk about that in a minute.
Yeah, to me was the individual base. Now you're relying only on yourself. I was always kind of a leader, always captain of the teams and whatnot, but when you're putting that pressure on yourself, it's a lot different world. Being out there by yourself with no one to support you, it's all on your back at that point.
Yeah. So you just alluded to it quickly, and obviously you are a bodybuilder. You've also worked with them. I've had a few come through STG as well. What was the diet like for you? Because that's really the make or break that a lot of people don't see, and it's possibly for a lot of people the most challenging part of it.
Absolutely, it's by far the most challenging. If you like food at all, bodybuilding is not for you. If you love rice and chicken, bodybuilding is definitely for you. So my diet for probably about 30 weeks straight would pretty much consist of 10 to 12 eggs for breakfast, half a grapefruit. That was a protein shake. And then from then on, the rest of the day, literally eating every 2 hours just to keep your body fueled. If you were to miss a meal or even miss a window, you felt it. You were physically drained. You didn't have that energy to keep going on because your body was so low in other nutrients. You know, getting down to 1% body fat is a tough thing to do. It throws off your hormones. So that's why keeping that window, keeping that feed into your body every couple of hours is so important. I would literally set alarm clocks in the middle of the night to wake up and eat protein shake or drink protein shakes.
Wow, that's a lot of dedication. The other thing that I find that people struggle with is the social implications. And what I mean by that is you get invited to, one of your relatives' birthdays or something of that nature, and you're not eating the cake. You're probably not eating the hamburgers and the hot dogs or whatever is on the menu. It's difficult for some people to say, no, I'm not going to eat that, once when they're on maybe like a quick 30-day diet. But essentially, for the better part of a year, you have to say that every day. What was that like?
I definitely got a lot of side eyes as I would walk into restaurants or family gatherings with my Tupperware full of my pre-made meals. Actually, during one point, my wife and I came to Canada to see a Blue Jays game, and getting across the border with all my pre-made meals was a fiasco.
Yeah, border's not good with that.
No, it was not fun. And then just going to all the restaurants and finding a place to warm up the food. A lot of times I would just end up eating cold chicken and cold sweet potatoes was another big thing that I would eat. That's just what agreed with my body more than other carbs, if you will. And that's another thing that you have to figure out along the way as well, what agrees with your body and how you can get down to that perfect physique, if you will.
Right. So when it comes to both the training and the diet, you can read a lot, you can research a lot, but it still always comes down to a certain amount of individualism. What might work great for you might not work great for me, or vice versa.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much for that information, Brian. We're now going to get Brian to do a demonstration of some of the exercises, some of the routines that helped him get into shape and get him on the stage for his bodybuilding. First exercise we're going to look at for Brian is the squat. Now we're going to do this on the pendulum machine. Doing basic heavy exercise is always going to be a good way of putting on muscle. So Brian, I'm going to get you to tell him a little bit about how you're setting this up and how your routine looked.
So this new third pin on this machine is fairly new. It's from this year. So what I'm going to talk about is how I incorporated this machine into my training for bodybuilding. So you have two different loading points here. This bottom loading point is going to be more quad dominant, and it's going to actually be heavier at the top of your movement where you're strongest. So that's where I would load for my warm-up sets.
Help you getting out of the hole for your warm-up.
Right. So when I got good and warmed up is when I would load the top horn, and that's going to be heaviest at the very bottom of your movement, which is always going to be, for 99% of you, the hardest part about a squat, is getting up out of that deep depth.
So we'll get you to start warming up here. Just kind of show the people how you were doing this.
So foot placement is always a big thing when you're squatting. So make sure you're good and comfortable in the machine before you take off.
I notice you're using a full range of motion, especially with the warm-up.
Absolutely. Got to get all the muscles incorporated and warmed up. It's great control. I like to pause at the bottom just to get that little bit of extra stretch when I know I'm not maxed out weight-wise.
So just doing a quick warm-up, not spending a lot of energy there. Now, you want us to load a plate here on the top, make it a little bit more challenging, but still this is another warm-up set for you.
Absolutely. Just preparing the body for that hard-working set, which is always the last set for me. And again, foot placement.
Notice Brian is keeping a nice straight spine. It's putting him in a very safe but also a very strong position. Now Brian, I know a lot of bodybuilders, when they do warm-up sets, they do multiple repetitions, like 10 to 20 reps every time they warm up. Was this typical of you at the time, just doing a very low amount that you felt was needed to get warm?
Absolutely. Like I alluded to, when you're in such a calorie deficit, you don't have a lot of energy to expound. So, you know, you're going through on a typical bodybuilding routine on a daily basis, you might be hitting 10 or 12 different exercises.
Right.
So for your major muscle groups, obviously you want to make sure you're good and warmed up. And I would always hit compound exercises early on because that's when I had the energy.
Right. Okay, so we're going to put a little more weight on here, get you to a working set. Let's go, Brian. Let's get into it now. Again, he's using that nice full range of motion, just like he did with the warm-up with the lighter resistance. Always breathing nice and free. Keep moving. Come on. There we go. Keep going. He's working the gluteal muscles, the quadriceps, the hamstrings. Lower back has to activate as well when we're doing a squat. It's one of the most productive exercises we can do. Keep going, Brian. Come on. Come on, you got more here, Brian. You got more. Starting to slow down now, but he's still got to keep grinding out those repetitions. It's the last repetitions, the ones that produce the most results. Keep going. Good, good. Just make that descent a little smoother. Don't let it fall. That's perfect. Squeeze it up. Come on. I think there's a couple more here, Brian. There's a couple more. It's yours. Come on up. Yep, one more. One more. Up. That's fantastic. That's a great set, Brian. Now, I don't know about you, but when I have people train in the squat, I generally don't go to true muscular failure or the point where the weight would actually come down on Brian or the person training. On some other exercises, like, say, a chest press machine with stoppers, I can let that weight come down. I know I'm not going to cause any sort of injury. But this is a maximal lift for Brian. This is a very, very hard exercise, and I don't want that weight to come down. Yes, on a barbell squat, we can set safety catches up. Yes, on this machine, there is a safety mechanism built in, but I like to leave at least one rep in the tank, maybe two. You're still going to be working extremely hard. What were your thoughts on the set, Brian?
It's been a minute since I went that deep, that quick in between sets, so it was good. Good and sweaty.
Fantastic. We're back with Brian Dawson from Rogers Athletics. Now, Brian, we just watched you work on a couple of exercise machines, and you had mentioned that they were one of the things that you used to build yourself up. And obviously there's a lot of people that think you have to use free weights, or there is a small amount of people who say that the machines are superior in all cases. Tell us a little bit about your thoughts on the actual tools you used for bodybuilding.
So in my bodybuilding routine, my coach that I hired, even though my background in weight training, I probably could have got there by myself, but to put myself over the top, I hired a coach to help. He was very, I would say, more old school, grew up on the barbell. Mm-hmm. So I did a lot of barbell training, but on my own, I have the beautiful Pendulum showroom equipped with all of our plate-loaded machines, which I utilized daily. So I would use a fair mix. I would say the one thing I didn't use a whole lot would be the plate-loaded, or the weight stack resisted machines. And that's just because I didn't have a whole lot of access to them at the time.
Right.
They're all tools. They're all going to be a means to an end. They're going to get you to that point. There's no better way, one way or the other, in my mind. And now, a lot of guys going to the different athletic facilities that I do for my job, you'll see a lot of guys that are very barbell driven and very anti-machine, and you'll see the other way around. It's all kind of just how you grew up, or who you trained under, or who you learned from. And that's what I've learned. Now, to me, plate-loaded machines probably are a little bit more superior. With our Pendulum line, you have the biomechanics. Our machines are very biomechanically friendly. And what I mean by that is they work with the body. A lot of times when you're using a weight stack machine, you are on a linear one plane of motion. Now, it's not bad for some people, but guys like you and I that have long arms and we're trying to do a chest press on one plane of motion, at some point we're probably going to get some type of shoulder impingement,
right,
or some type of injury. That's what's also nice about the Pendulum line. You have a lot of adjustments to take those pains out of working out.
Right. And I actually want to talk about that a little bit more. You have this athletic background, you're weight training for it, then you get into competitive bodybuilding. But now you've also developed a career in the fitness industry. And I have a lot of young people come into my gym, and maybe they want to be a personal trainer, maybe they want to be an online coach, and they ask me questions about this. You have a very unique job with a very big company. How did you get into the fitness business as a career choice?
Grind and grind. I worked my butt off for it. I actually started with Rogers in purchasing, and from there worked my way into sales. I would literally train a lot of people that worked at the shop in the early mornings before I would go to work. And I think that's what kind of opened up the company's eyes to realize that, okay, this guy knows what he's talking about, or he at least has a passion for it, and he's going to work his butt off for us. So that would be my number one thing right there, is if you have a dream, work your butt off for it.
So did you say that some of your bodybuilding training and the work and dedication that it requires to do that transitions over to other parts of your life, like your professional life?
Absolutely. Never been one to back down from really anything, but hard work, there's no substitute for it in the gym, in life, in everything that you do, in marriage, and relationships. Hard work. Yep.
And one of the things that I wanted to talk to you about is you have been able, through being with such a great company, at a big company, that you have done some gym builds for big-time university programs. The ones that come to mind: Michigan, Michigan State, Texas A&M. Tell us a little bit about these programs, because they have almost unlimited funds. They have so much resource. They can go out and they can do and build and buy whatever they want. And you've been right on the forefront of equipping some of these facilities. What was that like?
It's amazing when you hold all of the tools that you need under one roof to be able to make anything a coach can dream, what can happen. And a lot of these projects that you just alluded to are years and years of planning and tweaking things, and that's what we do really well compared to anybody else in the industry, is we can customize what you want to do to a T. So it all kind of started with the Michigan State football room. I think we installed that back in early 2016, and what we did unique there was made them an all customized rack specifically fitted to their needs, and then took 2 rows of racks down the middle of the room, essentially replacing twice the amount of racks, not essentially, replacing twice the amount of racks, and putting them, really just gave them more room. And then we took a super bridge, actually 3 of them, and spanned them from the front of the racks. So now there's these giant jungle gym looking monstrosities, and we took and put their logo up on top. You know, it's a really nice feature for recruiting, which is a huge deal in college football, obviously. So they're not only cool looking, but they're functional. You can do your TRXs off of them. You can have guys monkey bar across and do a pull-up on every monkey bar. You know, it just expands what you can do in your weight room.
So when it comes to some of these gyms, it's almost like they're having an arms race. So who can build it bigger, who can build it better? What do you think is going to be the future of both the collegiate level gyms, professional level gyms, but maybe even some of the bigger membership gyms out there? Where do you think that's going?
Well, in your case, or anybody that is a private entity, you guys know how hard it can be to differentiate yourselves, and you do a great job of it with all this amazing equipment that you have, a wide array of it. But you go to a Planet Fitness or any other box gym, and they have all the same machines, all the same colors. You're not getting a variety at all. And for your general public, that's maybe a good thing. But if you're trying to do one-on-one training, you're not differentiating yourself at all from those guys if you have the same equipment in there.
Right.
So that's where we come in. If we're able to offer you a couple of pieces where we can come in and say, hey, you're going to sell more memberships by bringing this piece or that piece, I would say the power squat would be that #1 piece in this industry.
Yep.
That's going to bring more people in because now you're teaching them how to squat in a safe environment. That's a huge plus to a guy in your situation.
So you think really bringing an individual experience for each facility may be where things are going to go, whereas the facility itself is almost its own entity that you're selling people.
Sure, absolutely. And if there's things you like about that machine, but maybe you want to see differently, maybe different handles put on the chest press or something like that, that's stuff that we do. And it's going to cost you a little bit more, but if you could dream it, we can do it for you.
Perfect.
And that's nobody else out there right now is offering that. As far as your bigger facilities, you're right. It's an absolute arms race. Who can outdo who? We've been putting TVs in our bridges. We've been building racks around all these new tracking systems, your power systems and whatnot. Kind of have the Xbox lens, and it's tracking your body as you're squatting or benching, and it's giving the coaches feedback. We've really been integrating technology into a lot of things that we do.
It's going to be exciting to see what happens in the next 5 years. Brian, if someone wanted to get a hold of you, what would be the best way to reach you?
Email at bdawson, DAWSON, @rogersathletic.com, or my cell phone's always on, 989-280-6414.
Brian, thank you very much for being on the show today.
My pleasure, Mike. Thank you.